Alright, so welcome back everybody. So for this video, I'm going to show you guys how to play Flu Season Dice Roll to Survive by Sad Stretch Games. Now you can play this game with up to 6 players. Now before we get started and showing you how to play the game, I want to tell you guys that this icon here on the dice is virus, okay? Virus is bad. Virus is going to cause you to lose hearts, okay? This icon means health. And if you roll this, you actually get to restore your health, okay? There's also booster shots, and there's also flus, okay? Flus are bad, booster shots are good. Now, the reason why I have the dice out like this, you'll notice there's 6 viruses, because out of the 9 dice you'll be rolling, 6 of them have viruses on them. However, with that said, only 3 of the 9 dice have the health icon or the health symbol on them. So that means that there's a good chance you will roll more viruses than health, okay? That does mean that, okay? Just that I'd state that now. Now, on your turn, what you're going to do is you're just simply going to roll the dice, okay? There's a bunch of different things that'll happen. So, could happen. So, let's just go ahead and roll, right? Okay. So, we actually only rolled 1 virus. But we rolled 2 health, okay? So, this health basically would cancel out that virus. And normally, I would restore 1 health because I rolled 2 health and only 1 virus. However, in this game, each player only has a maximum amount of hearts. Now, if you're playing the characters mode, depending on what character you are, will depend on how many your max hearts is. So if you're the influencer, your max heart is 10 hearts. But if you're the rude stranger, your maximum hearts are only 3. Ouch, right? So max hearts means you can't restore more than your max amount. So even though at this point in the game, I would be able to restore health, I'm not going to do that because I have full health here, okay? That's what that means. And when you lose health, you'll just simply flip it over, okay? Simple as that, right? Okay, but then we have all these other dice here. So after you've rectified whether you lose or gain hearts with the virus and the health dice, then you're going to look at how many flu dice you have and how many booster dice you have. Since I only have 2 booster dice and I have 4 of the flu dice, I'm actually going to lose a heart because of the flu dice. Now, I only lose 1 heart. So just because I have 2 more flu dice over the booster shot dice, I still only lose 1 heart. So therefore, as the rude stranger, I would only lose 1 heart. If I had more of the booster shot dice than the flu size season dice, so let's say it was like, for instance, this equation, I would heal a heart. Now, of course, if I'm max health, I wouldn't heal anything, okay? Also, I should point this out as well, if you have an even amount of flu and booster dice, then nothing happens. At least with that equation, nothing will happen. You don't lose or gain anything, okay? So yes, you can lose. So you're always going to rectify your health and your virus dice first, and depending on the equation will mean how much hearts you're going to lose or how much hearts you're going to gain. Then you'll rectify your booster and your flu dice and just determine whether you're going to gain health or lose it, okay? The winner of the game is the player who is the last man standing, or the last person standing that still has at least 1 heart, okay? Basically. So if you lose all your hearts, you're out of the game. So if you lose all your hearts, you're out of the game. The other players continue playing. It's not a very long game, so while it would stink to be the first one out, you're not going to be waiting a long time for the game to be over. In fact, the rules state if it seems like one player has an overwhelming amount of hearts versus other players, and it doesn't seem like they're losing any health anytime soon, the other players, they can quit. They can bow out and say, hey, the influencer is the winner, for instance, if they want to do that. That's actually stated in the rules. So that's something you can do. So if it seems like it's taking forever and one player just continues to gain health and the other players are just barely holding on, they can just quit, end the game, let the other player win, and this way you can play again and again and again that way. So that way, so no one is like forced to wait and wait and wait and just, you know, barely get by. They can just bow out respectfully, and this way you can play another game. Like I said, it's not a very long game, so play a few games, and then you can definitely play a few games in an hour at least. So definitely not a very long game. Now, there is a couple other things that can happen to you when you roll the dice, just in the basic rules of rolling dice. So if you ever do roll all bad dice, so let's just say that was the case, I only rolled something like this, viruses and flus. If you ever roll viruses and flus, it doesn't matter how many hearts you have, you instantly lose all your hearts and you're out of the game. That's called sudden death. So, youch, that can happen too. So one player who, you know, you might have very few hearts here, but just because you have less hearts than this player here, they can still be wiped out by a sudden death if they roll horribly like that. So that's also a possibility. So somebody who like is doing really well and has been having just good rolls all around, they can get one horrible roll and lose that way. That's a possibility. Now, let's say, for the point of argument, that we've got a player here who only has one heart left, and they don't think they're going to win now because they only have one heart, especially with the other players. They still have all their hearts. Something else that can also potentially happen is a player can roll only good stuff, okay? So let's get that equation shown here. Let me get all the good stuff. It's not as possible because there's less of the good stuff than there is of the bad, but it can happen. It can happen. Okay, so if this was their equation, they rolled only health and booster shots, they get a hospital visit, and they automatically get to heal all of their hearts up to their maximum amount of health. So, just because you are down to your last heart does not mean that it's hopeless and that there's no way you can win or stay in the game for that matter, because you can restore all of your hearts if you do get that one lucky roll. A hospital visit is definitely an awesome mechanic, and it's definitely a wonderful way to restore someone's bad luck with this game with one good roll like that. Okay? So those are the basic ideas of rolling. So you're going to lose a certain amount of hearts based on how many viruses you have, or gain a certain amount of hearts based on how much health you have over the hearts, over the viruses. And then at most you lose only one heart, or gain one heart with the booster and the flu dice. So that's basically the basic game. That's the basic game. Now, in the basic game of this game, you don't play with these character cards, and everybody gets an equal amount of 10 hearts each. But it's, I think, more enjoyable to have a little bit of variety to the game by playing with the character variant instead. Now, it's true, the Rude Stranger has the lowest amount of hearts here, and why would you ever want to play a game when you got opponents who have 10 hearts when you only have 3? Well, that's because the Rude Stranger has an ability here. So the Rude Stranger is when flu dice outnumber the booster dice, you can choose another player to lose one heart instead. But you do not restore a heart when taking it. So what does that mean? And viruses still affect you anyway. What does that mean? Okay, so let's say I have more flu than than booster shots, okay? Let me find another one of the flus. So let's say I have four of these flu dice, and I have 2 boosters. But look, I have 3 health here. If I was to do this, the Rude Stranger's ability here, and have the Scientist, for instance, lose 1 heart instead of me on my turn, I don't gain the health back with all of these dice. So let's say I had 1 heart left. I don't get my health back with these health dice because I'm activating the Rude Stranger's ability, okay? That's what that means. That's what that means. And it even states it in the rule book if this doesn't make sense to you. It even states it in the rule book. So that's another thing. But then viruses still affect you, so you still would always lose health based on the amount of, viruses that you rolled, So let me find one. So something like that. You would still lose 1 health because you're basically canceling out the virus with 1 health, and so then you have 1 virus on its own. So you're still losing health with viruses anyways. But the point is, it's a take that type card, and you can cause other players to lose hearts on your turn. But if you don't like take that variant, if you don't like the take that element, there's lots of other characters to play with besides the Rude Stranger, the Influencer, and the Scientist. We've got the Official. The Official has 5 hearts, and they can re-roll any 4 dice once every turn. That's a powerful move. We've also got the Doctor. The Doctor can change 1 flu dice to a booster shot each turn. So that could be advantageous if a player has more flu than booster. Or for instance, let's say there's an even amount of the booster and the flu. Okay? Let me find the one that's got, here, let's just do it that way. Let's say that's the equation. There's an equal amount. Well, the Doctor could change 1 flu into a booster shot, and this way gain a heart instead. Or in this equation, he would lose a heart with the virus, but then gain it back with the extra booster. Okay? Basically, that's what's going to happen. That's still going to happen. But that's how that would work, basically. For sure. So that's another thing that you could do with the Doctor. You could play with the Doctor instead of the Rude Stranger. So that's a nice one. And then there's one of these, there's a couple of these introverts here as well. You can, when you're the introvert, you get 7 hearts, but then you can choose to skip your turn once every 3 rounds. So after the 3rd round, you can skip the turn in the 1st round, and then so this way you can survive longer and last longer, because the more times you roll, the more likelihood you're going to, start losing hearts, right? So if you can decrease the amount of times you can roll the dice over versus the other players, that could be an advantageous move to have if you were the introvert. That's something else you could be. So the only advantage of being an influencer, however, is the influencer doesn't have any real abilities. They just live better than everyone else because they have 10 hearts. So if you're the influencer, you get 10 hearts, but you don't have any abilities, while everybody else has some sort of ability to protect themselves. Like the Scientist here, for instance, which I didn't explain yet. So the Scientist, he has 5 hearts, right? But virus and health dice do not affect him. So if there's more virus than there is health, right? So this is a big advantage to be the Scientist, because you'll never be affected by virus dice. So if you roll 6 virus dice, well, you probably won't lose anything. Because the reason why I say that is the Scientist, just like everybody else, is still affected by sudden death if that was still to happen, right? But that does mean that they do not gain health either if they roll health dice. So they're not affected by health or virus, but they don't get the benefit or the disadvantage either with the Scientist. So that's another powerful character. But like I said, there's lots of characters. If you don't like the take that element, you do not have to play with the Rude Stranger. But still, when you think about it, just because I can do 1 damage to another player on my turn to somebody else that has 10 hearts versus 3, I am still at a very big disadvantage here, potentially, versus a player who has 10 hearts, okay? versus a player who has 5, we're about the same now, because now I can attack the other player. But that does mean if I roll a lot of viruses on one turn, even if it's not sudden death, I could be wiped out in just one turn as the Rude Stranger. So while it is Take That, it's not horrible Take That. It's not something overpowering Take That. It's more of a nuisance of Take That element, if anything. But still, I think for the most part, this will be a very enjoyable game to play with other people because, like I said, you're not really attacking other players unless you're the Rude Stranger. You're just rolling to survive. You're just trying to roll the best dice you can in order to survive the game. That's all you're trying to do, basically. To be the last player standing, and you're not attacking other players, not really, except for the Rude Stranger, right? And so, therefore, it's much more fun than your simple, normal, take that element type of game, for sure. So I hope you guys liked this how to play video. I hoped this was good enough to explain the game for the most part. There's a few different variants besides this, but the character variant is definitely the most fun, I think, with the different abilities and the differences in what you can do, for sure. But reality, when it still comes down to the luck of the roll. So, thank you guys for watching this. I'll see you guys again next time.